Good morning, students. I welcome you all for the session. In this session, we are going to discuss regarding a round robin scheduling algorithm. We are going to continue the scheduling algorithms, right? In the last classes, we have discussed regarding this first come, first serve scheduling algorithm and shortest job first scheduling algorithm and also shortest remaining time first scheduling algorithm we have seen. So let me give a brief glance of all those three. Like first come first serve in the sense like uh, which process comes first, we'll be going to allocate that process to the CPU. But we are facing convey effect. What do you mean by convey effect? In the sense, the process which is going to have least burst time will have to wait much of this time. So that is the convey effect. In order to overcome that, we have gone for shortest job first. Like in that shortest job first, what we have done, shortest job first, like we'll be going to have uh, starvation and aging. Fine. Shortest job first in the sense which is going to have the short burst time will be keep on executing. So the job which is going to have highest burst time is going to starve, is going keep on waiting. That we call it as a starvation. And how we have avoided that starvation in the sense by making use of aging. What do you mean by aging? In the sense like when we have executed one process, we are going to reduce the process burst time, which is having the highest burst time process. We are reducing it by one. Like that, after some time, that highest burst time process will be going to have least burst time. So then we are going to execute it. So that will be in shortest job first. Like we will be going to have non-preemptive and preemptive. Shortest job first is non-preemptive, where we can find a starvation. And when it comes to preemptive, it is the shortest remaining time first. So we have seen both non-preemptive and preemptive. What do you mean by non-preemptive? In the sense we can't stop the process in the middle. Once we have allocated a process to the CPU, until unless it finishes by itself and it is exited out of that CPU, we can't stop that process in the middle. So that is a non-preemptive thing. When it comes to preemptive, like the user can stop the process forcibly. Like if any high priority process comes in the scenario, means like we'll be going to stop the process which is currently executing, and we'll be going to give the high priority process to the CPU. So that is a preemptive. So all these things we have seen. And today in this class we'll be going to discuss one of the important algorithm, which is the round robin scheduling algorithm. So what is the main funda of this round robin scheduling algorithm is, like we are not following the first come first serve, or we'll be not going to follow the job which is going to have the least prior, I mean least burst time, or else we'll be not going to follow the jobs which is going to have the highest priority. All the things we'll be not going to follow. What is the main concept over here is, like we'll be going to give equal importance or equal priority to each and every process irrespective of their burst times or irrespective of their arrival times. Fine. So even though the process which is having the highest priority, like we are going to see that process as equal with the other processes. So the basic today we'll be going to see this round robin scheduling algorithm. So the basic fundamental is that, like giving equal priority. So this is the basic fundamental of this round robin scheduling algorithm. So we are going to give equal priority. Fine. How we are going to give equal priority? In the sense by making use of time quantum, or time quantum, or we can say it as time slice. So what is this time quantum or time slice? In the sense, like suppose if you are going to have five processes, all the five processes, suppose we are going to have three processes. Fine. So we'll be going to have a first process, second process, and the third process. First process burst time is suppose say it is of 10 milliseconds. First time process is of 10 milliseconds, and the second time burst time is of 23 milliseconds, and the third time burst time is of 9 milliseconds. Fine. So even though, like, actually when we are going to see the first come first serve, we'll be going to allocate this process P1 first. We'll be going to allocate this process P1. Or when we are going to see the shortest job first, we'll be going to allocate the process P3. But in round robin scheduling, we are not going to see all the things. We are going to give equal importance to each and every process that has been arriving in the ready queue. Fine. So here, we'll be going to make use of time quantum or time slice. Suppose, for example, here I have kept 2 minutes as a time slice, 2 milliseconds, not minutes, 2 milliseconds as a time slice. Time slice. So the first process will be given to the CPU, but it won't execute 10 minutes of time. It executes only 2 minutes of time, so that remaining 8 milliseconds are left with. Next, the processor is shifted to second process. Here it requires 23 milliseconds, but even though 23 milliseconds, we will be going to give only 2 milliseconds. Here 21 milliseconds are left. And now the process P3 will come. It requires 9 milliseconds of its burst time, but we will be going to give 2 milliseconds. So here 7 milliseconds are left. So this is a one turn. And again in the second turn, we will be going to start with first process. So first process need 8 milliseconds, but here we will be going to give only 2 milliseconds. So 6 milliseconds will be left, like that. 19 milliseconds will be left, and 5 milliseconds will be left. So this is the second turn. So like this, what we are going to do is, we are not going to give any priority to any of the process. We will be going to consider each process as an equal importance. So we are going to keep a time slice or a time quantum, so that each process will execute that much amount of time only, so that we'll be not going to face much of the trouble. So that is the main funda of this round robin scheduling algorithm. So majorly this round robin scheduling algorithm is a primitive scheduling algorithm. So it is not a non-primitive. So it is a primitive scheduling algorithm. So this is a primitive process scheduling algorithm. Here we will be going to provide with a fixed time called as time quantum, or a quantum time. We can say it as a, this is a fixed time for all the process, not for one process. Fixed time for all the process, that we call it as a time quantum. So once a process is executed for a given period of time, that means if I said 2 milliseconds, if a process has been executed for 2 milliseconds, it is preempted. Preempted in the sense, it is taken out. It is taken out, and the CPU is given to the another process. So that is the basic funda of this round robin scheduling algorithm. Here context switching is going to be done. Why? Because as I have seen before, three process in the sense, this is going to do 2 milliseconds, then context switching is going to be done to second process. Context switching in the sense, we are stopping in the middle and giving to another process. When we are going to stop, as we have seen in the earlier context switching, when we are going to stop this process P1, what we have to do is, we have to save the details of process P1 in the, where we are going to store, process control block. So process control block is the one which is associated with each and every process. So when we are going to do a context switching from one process to another process, this process one details need to be saved, so that when we are going to save the details of this process P1, when we are going for the second turn, so we'll be going to get the details from the PCB, and we'll be going to start continuing from there. If you are not going to have a context switching, these details won't be saved, and we don't know from where we have to start. Again we have to start from the starting. So in order to avoid such circumstances, what we are going to do is, like, we'll be going to do a context switching. Context switching in the sense, when we are switching from one process to another process, we have to save the details of the first process where we are going to store in the PCB, process control block. In the PCB we'll be going to store, so that when we are going and we want to retrieve it again, we'll be going to get all the details. So that is how the PCB and the context switching is going to be done. So context switching is used to save the states of a primitive process, till which state it has executed, at till which time it has executed, what is that ID, everything will be going to store. So in round robin scheduling algorithm, each ready task runs turn by turn only in a cyclic queue. So when we have seen the previous, like FCFS, SJF, we are not much bothered about the ready queue. But here, must and should, we have to maintain a ready queue. Until unless if you are not going to maintain a ready queue, you will be not going to have a proper idea like how we are going to cycle the processes. So if you are placing a ready queue, in the sense, like, it will be very much easy for you in order to cycle the process, and you will be going to get the correct answer. If you are not maintaining the ready queue, it will be somewhat difficult. So what you do is, for better understanding, you have to maintain a ready queue with an ad chart. When we are preparing that chart, you maintain a ready queue, so that it will be easy when we are going for this round robin scheduling algorithm. So there are some important characteristics of a round robin scheduling algorithm. So the first important characteristic is, it is a primitive algorithm. Primitive in the sense, we can stop it forcibly. We can stop it anywhere. We can stop it anywhere. So that is a primitive. The CPU is shifted to the next process after fixed interval of time. That is a time slice we are keeping, right? After that fixed time slice, the CPU is going to be shifted from one process to the another process. The process that is preempted is added to the end of that queue, added to the end of that ready queue. As we are maintaining the ready queue, if any process is taken out, that process will be going to add it in the ready queue. So it is an hybrid model which is a clock driven. So by making use of a clock tick, we will be going to do the scheduling. So time slice should be minimum. If you are going to have a time slice of 15 milliseconds, 20 milliseconds, means again it will be a drawback. So in order to have the effective thing, the time slice should be minimum. In real time algorithm which responds to the event within a specific time limit. So in real time algorithms, we'll be going to use it. It is one of the oldest, fairest and easiest algorithm. It is widely used in traditional operating systems. These are the different characteristics of a round robin scheduling algorithm. So let me give you an example. Like when we are going to do a multitasking, for example, when we are going to operate in your laptop, like when you are browsing something, so what you will be going to do, you will be going to do multitasking. Multitasking in the sense, doing different tasks at the same time. So when we are going to browse anything, so here we will be going to, suppose, consider your laptop. So here you are browsing the things, fine. At the same time you can play the game, at the same time you can listen to the songs. Different tabs will be going to open, and we'll be going to execute all the things parallelly. So parallelly, how we are going to execute parallelly, in the sense, by making use of this round robin. Why? Because we'll be not aware of that context switching. Actually, this browsing of internet, 1 millisecond. After 1 millisecond, it will be going to play the game. After 1 millisecond, we'll be going to do listen the songs. Like these three things are, like, what we feel is these three things are doing parallelly, but they are not doing parallelly. They are doing by means of context switching, shifting from one task to another within a nano milliseconds of time, in which we can't even identify. So by making use of this round robin, we are going to give a time for each and every process, each and every task. Browsing 1 minute, playing 1 minute, and listening 1 minute, again browsing, playing, listening, browsing, playing, listening. Like that we'll be going to repeat the things. How many browsers we have been opened, we are going to give a priority or a time limit for each and every process, so that it can't identify by your naked eye. Like that we'll be going to have the context switching between the process, but not parallel processing, right? Make sure of it. So here we'll be going to see an example of round robin scheduling algorithm. Here one thing you notice is, here all the processes arrived at same time. So you will be going to consider two different things. All the processes arrived at same time, all the processes arrived at different times. So this is the example of all the processes arrived at same time. Fine. Here what you have to do is, so this is the chart. So this is the chart, and you have to maintain a ready queue. I'll be going to draw the ready queue. So this is the ready queue we are having. Fine. So this we call it as an ready queue. Why? Because if you are not maintaining this ready queue, it will be a bit difficult. Fine. Listen carefully. Here, this duration is nothing but burst times. The arrival time of all the processes are 0 and ordered at 1, 2, 3. And first P1 arrived, second P2 arrived, and third P3 arrived. So when the arrival times of all the processes are equal, that means now all these three processes are in the ready queue. So this is the ready queue. So P1 is in the ready queue, P2 is in the ready queue, P3 is in the ready queue. Fine. So listen carefully. Now what you have to do is, when the arrival times of all the processes are equal, that means all the processes are arrived at the same time, what you have to do is, you have to place all the processes in the ready queue, P1, P2 and P3. Now you have to see at the 0th millisecond which process has arrived. So at 0th millisecond all the three processes have been arrived. So first which has been arrived, P1 has arrived. So we are going to give chance for process P1, and here the time quantum is 1 unit, that means 1 millisecond. The time quantum is 1 millisecond. Fine. Or 1 unit or 1 millisecond you can consider. So P1 burst time, P1 actually needs 3 milliseconds to complete its task. But what the time limit we have given for all the processes? 1 millisecond. So P1 will execute only for 1 millisecond. So P1 executed for 1 millisecond. Now the burst time is going to be 2 milliseconds. And next, which now P1 has, now we have to check it out the ready queue. We have to take the process from the ready queue and place in the chart. And P1 burst time is 3 milliseconds, but it has done only 1 millisecond. How many milliseconds left? 2 milliseconds are left. So again we have to give chance for the P1. So now we will be going to give the P1 in the ready queue. We have to add the P1 in the ready queue. Why? Because 2 minutes are left with the P1 again. And next, which job is there in the PQ? Ready queue? P2 is there. So we will be going to take P2, and 1 millisecond we will be going to give chance to the P2. P2 will execute for 1 millisecond. Now the time is 2 milliseconds. Now P2 has executed 1 millisecond. It is left with 3 milliseconds. It has not completed. So again we have to add this P2 over the ready queue. And again, which is there in the order? P3 is there in the order. So we have to give P3. P3 executes for 1 millisecond. That means P3 executes for 3 milliseconds. 3 milliseconds. So it burst time is going to be reduced to 2. It has not completed. So again we have to add the P3 over here. So one turn completed. Next, which is there in the ready queue? P1 is there in the ready queue. Now we'll be going to take P1 at, so we'll be going to give P1. So P1 needs how many milliseconds? 2 milliseconds. But we'll be going to give only 1 millisecond, and 1 millisecond is left out. So we have to add P1 back again to the ready queue. P1 executes for 4 milliseconds. And next, which is there in the order, P2 is there. So we'll be going to keep P2. How much time P2 needs? P2 needs 3 milliseconds of time, but we have to give only 1 millisecond, so it is left with 2 milliseconds. As it is left with 2 milliseconds, again we have to add P2. Fine. Next, P3 will come. P2 will execute for 5 milliseconds. Next, P3 will come. P3 needs 2 milliseconds, but we'll be going to give 1 millisecond. So still 1 millisecond is left. So again we have to add P3 over here. So 6. Again P1 is there in the order. So we'll be going to give chance for P1. Now 1 millisecond over. So P1 has completed its task. So now we need not keep P1 in the ready queue back. Why? Because its burst time is completed. So we'll be not going to do anything. So this P1 will execute for 7 milliseconds. Next, which is there in the order? P2 is there in the order. Like we'll be going to make P2. P2 executes for 1 millisecond and it is left with 1 millisecond. As it is left with 1 millisecond, we have to enter P2 again and 8, and again which is there in the order, P3 is there in the order. So we'll be going to get P3. P3 needs 1 millisecond. So now P3 task also completed. So we need not get back P3 again into the ready queue. Why? Because P3 has completed its task. P3 executes for 9 milliseconds and finally P2. P2 is the only thing left. P2 has 1 millisecond. So we'll be going to left with 10 milliseconds. This is how you will be going to prepare a round robin scheduling algorithm in a circular manner. Fine. You have to consider the arrival time plus burst time. At what time it has been arrived. If all the arrival times are equal, we have to check only the burst times. If the arrival times are not equal, we have to calculate, we have to see both the arrival times as well as the burst times. Clear? So you have to do, you have to practice once or twice so that you will be going to have very much flexible. Fine. So this is how round robin scheduling algorithm is going to be done. So 3 processes like durations, order, in which order they have arrived. So like we have given a time slice of 1 unit, only 1 unit we have to do, 1 2 3 4. If time slice is 2 units, 2 4 6 8, like that you will be going to do. So this is an example if all the arrival times are equal. Fine. If all arrival times are equal and they have ordered in 1 2 3 order, this is the thing we have to do. Now I'll be going to show you another example, like if these arrival times are different. Fine. So when the arrival times are different, like how you'll be going to do, we'll be going to see now. So we'll be going to continue with an example like whose arrival times are different. Fine. Suppose this is consider this example whose arrival times are different. So P1 arrived at 0, P2 arrived at 5, P3 at 1, P4 at 6, P5 at 8. So these are the burst times. Burst times are nothing but time required for the process to complete its task. Listen carefully. So here we'll be going to maintain a ready queue. This is the ready queue. So listen carefully how I'm doing. Fine. You practice more problems so that it will be very much easy to you and you will be very much familiar in doing those programs. Fine. So fine. At 0 at the millisecond, which process came? P1 process came. Any other process is there over here? No other process. So at 0 at the millisecond, only P1 process is there. So we'll be going to get that, we'll be going to get this P1 process and we'll be going to admit over here. So what is the time quantum we have given? 3 milliseconds we have given. So 3 milliseconds we have to give for each and every process. So this P1 will execute for how many milliseconds? 3 milliseconds. But P1 needs how many milliseconds? 8 milliseconds. How many milliseconds left? So 5 milliseconds are left over. So 0, 1, 2, 3. 3 milliseconds. During the P1 is executing, during 0, 1, P1 has been executing for 3 milliseconds. During this 1, 2 and 3 milliseconds, what we have to do is we have to check any process have been arrived in the between 0 and 3. So between 0 and 3 any process has been arrived. So only P3 process has been arrived. Why? Because it has arrived at 1 millisecond. So what we'll be going to do is we'll be going to include that P3 process in the ready queue. Why? Because when P1 is doing, P3 already came. So we'll be going to admit that P3 process in the ready queue. And next at 3 milliseconds of time, already one process came, that is P3 process. So we'll be going to give turn to the P3 process. So we are going to give turn to that P3 process. P3 process execute for how many milliseconds of time? 3 milliseconds of time. So P3 process is 3 milliseconds of time. So it has been executed for 3 milliseconds of time. So P1 process has been executed for 3 milliseconds of time. So here in the middle, what is there? P1 has not completed its task. So what we have done is we have to include back P1 again. Fine. If P1 has completed its task, there is no need to include P1 back again. But as P1 is left with the burst time, we have to include P1 again. So in the middle P3 came. So we are giving chance to that P3. P3 needs 3 milliseconds of time. So 4 milliseconds have been left. So that the time completion time is 6 milliseconds. At 6 milliseconds we have to check any process came into existence. Yes, at 6 milliseconds P3 has completed. At the same time P4 P3 has completed at 6 milliseconds and P4 has arrived at 6 milliseconds. At this situation, what we have to do is at 6 milliseconds, which process came? P4 process came. So we have to admit that P4 process and P4 process here, and as P3 process has not completed its burst time, we have to admit the P3 process later. So this is how we have to do. And next, which process is there? P1 process is there in the queue. So we have to give chance to the P1 process. P1 process executes for how many milliseconds of time? 3 milliseconds of time, and it is left with 2 milliseconds of time. So when 9 milliseconds, we have to check any process is there in the queue. As at 9 milliseconds P5 process came, so we have to admit that P5 process, and P1 process has left with 2 milliseconds. Again we have to enter the P1 process in the ready queue. And next, what is there in the ready queue? This is P4. Now we have to give P4 process the turn. P4 process burst time is actually 3. So it has completed its task. So we need not give any back position to P4. So when we are going to give P4, P4 executes for 12 milliseconds, and we are not going to admit P4 process back over here. Why? Because it already completed its task. Next, what is there in the what is there here? P3 is there. So we have to take P3. So P3 is left with 4 milliseconds. So we will be going to have 15, and P3 is left with 1 millisecond. As it is not completed, we have to admit P3 over here. And next, which is there in the order? P5 is there in the order. So P5 we will be going to take. P5 needs 5 milliseconds, but we will be going to give only 3 milliseconds. So, and P5 is going to admit over here. So P5 will execute for 18 milliseconds. As it is not completed, we are admitting P5 over here. And next, P1 is there in the condition. So P1 needs 2 milliseconds of time. It doesn't mean that as we are giving the burst time of 3 milliseconds, we have to give 3 milliseconds. P2, P1 needs only 2 milliseconds of time, so that we'll be going to give only 2 milliseconds of time. So we'll be going to give 2 milliseconds of time. So this is also completed. So P2 to 18 in the sense 2 milliseconds means 20. So we are not going to admit P1 back in the ready queue. And next, which process is there? P3 process is there. So P3 process needs how many milliseconds of time? So here 2 milliseconds of time. So P3 process is there. So here in this way we'll be going to check it out whether all the process has been. Now we'll be going to give P3 process 1 millisecond, and when it comes to the 6, when the time quantum is 6, here when time quantum is 6, we have arrived a process P2 also and P4 also. Here before P4 we are going to have the P2 process also. Here at 5 milliseconds we have arrived a process P2 as well as P4. Fine. So here we will be going to see the context switching between the processes, whether it is a P1, whether it is a P2, or whether it is a P4. So here P1, P3 and again P1. And next, as the P2 process is there over here, what we'll be going to do is, we'll be going to give here P2 process a perfect time. So from 9, we'll be going to have a P2 process. Let me say you again. So here the burst times of the processes are, what are the burst times of the process? Here 8 and 2, 7, 3 and 5. So these are the burst times of the processes. Now we have to place a ready queue and you have to place a NAT chart. Fine. See, at 0 millisecond, which process entered? P1 process entered. So P1 process entered. So at 0, this is the ready queue and this is the chart. Fine. At 0 millisecond, P1 process entered, and P1 process, no other process has been entered. So we have to give chance for the P1 process. So we will be going to admit P1 process over here. As the time quantum is 3 milliseconds, we have to execute 3 milliseconds of time. At 3 milliseconds of time, we have to check any process has been arrived. Yes. So 3 milliseconds means it is left with 5 milliseconds. At which process entered? So P3 process has entered. So we have to write P3 over here. So P3 over here. So P1 process has left with 5 milliseconds. Before placing it, we have to check any process has been arrived. Yes, P3 process has been arrived. So we'll be writing P3 and then we have to write P1 process. Next, we have to give P3 process. P3 process means its burst time is 7. So it is left with 4 milliseconds of time and it has done till 6. We have to check whether before admitting this P3 process back in the ready queue, we have to check any process has been entered between the span of 3 and 6. So any process has been entered between the span of 3 and 6 in the sense at uh, at 5 P2 has been entered. At 5 milliseconds P2 has been entered. So at 5 milliseconds P2 has been entered, and at 6 milliseconds P4 has been entered, and again this P3 has left with 4 milliseconds, so that we will be going to admit back P3 again in the ready queue. Next, which is there in the process? P1. So we have to give chance for the P1. So P1 needs 5 milliseconds, but 3 milliseconds have done, only 2 milliseconds has been there. So from 6 to 9, P1 process is going to do. Before admitting this process back again, we have to check whether in between 6 and 9 any process arrived. Yes, P5 process arrived. So we have to write P5 process over here, and then we have to admit the P1 process over here. Fine. And next we will be going to go for P2 process, which is there in the queue. P2 process needs 2 milliseconds of time. It has been completed. So we will be going to give chance for P2 process, which will execute for 2 milliseconds of time. As the P2 process has been completed, we need not admit P2 process back again over here. So it executes 11 milliseconds of time. So at 11 milliseconds, no process has been errored. So we have to go with this process only. So what's there in the ready queue? P4 process is there, and P4 process needs 3 milliseconds of time, but all the 3 milliseconds it has completed. So 14 milliseconds we will be going to execute P4, and we will be not going to admit P4 back in the ready queue. Why? Because P4 completed its this thing. And next P3 is there, and we have to admit P3 over here. P3 needs 4 milliseconds, 1 millisecond left. Till 17 it is going to be done. Fine. So again this P3 process is going to be admitted over here, and again which is there here, P5 process is there. So P5 process needs 5 milliseconds, but we will be going to give only 3 milliseconds. Here 2 milliseconds are left. So 17, 20 milliseconds. Again P5 process admitted over here. Which is there again? P1 process is there again. So P1 needs how many milliseconds? 2 milliseconds. So till 22 P1 will execute, and will not admit P2 back again over here. Why? Because P1 completed its task. And which is there next in the queue, in the sense P3 is there. P3 needs 1 millisecond of time. So till 23 P3 will execute and will not admit back it again. And what is the last one left? P5 process is left, and P5 process will do till 25 milliseconds. This is how we will be going to calculate the NAT chart as well as the ready queue. Now in order to calculate the all the times, first we will be going to calculate the completion time. What is the formula for completion time formula? So here we will be going to have uh, completion time, in the sense what we have to see is, we have to check from the back side. We have to check from the back side. So what is the completion time of P1? P1 completed at 22. So this is the completion time of P1. What is the completion time of P2? P2 completed at 11 milliseconds. So this is the completion time of P2. What is the completion time of P3? P3 completed at 23 milliseconds. So P3 completion time is 23, and P4 completion time is 14, and P5 completion time is 25. So this is how you have to calculate the completion time. Next you have to find out the turnaround time. So what is the formula for turnaround time is, the formula for turnaround time is turnaround time is equals to completion time minus arrival time. Fine. Turnaround time formula is completion time minus arrival time. So here completion time is 22. Arrival time is 0. So 22 minus 0 is 22 minus 0 is 22, and here we will be going to have turnaround completion time is 11, and arrival time is 5. Then turnaround time is going to be 6, and here we will be going to have 23 minus 1, which is going to be 22, and here 14 minus 6, which is going to be 8, and here 25 minus 8, which is going to be 17. So these are the different turnaround times. Turnaround time is equals to completion time minus arrival time. So this is the formula for calculating the turnaround time. Next we will be going to calculate the waiting time. Waiting time is equals to, what is the formula for waiting time, is equals to turn around time minus burst time. So this is the formula for waiting time. Now, what is the waiting time? So turnaround time is 22. 22 minus 0. So waiting time is equals to turnaround time minus arrival time. So, sorry, turnaround time minus burst time is the thing. So 22 minus 8, which is 14. Here you are writing 22 minus 8, which is 14. And next one, here is 6 minus 2, which is 4. And 22 minus 7, which is 15. And the last one is 8 minus 3, 8 minus 3, which is 5. And the last one is 17 minus 2, 5, which is going to be 12. So this is how we will be going to calculate the waiting times. And finally, the response time. Response time, how we will be going to calculate is, response time is nothing but first time at which CPU allocated. First time at which CPU allocated. For P1, at what time CPU is allocated? 0 allocated minus arrival time. So at what time CPU is allocated? 0, that means 0, the CPU is allocated, minus arrival time is 0. That is, we will be going to have the response time of P1 is equals to 0. Response time of P2. At what time P2 allocated? That is 9 minus 5. Burst time is, arrival time is 5. 9 minus 5, that is equals to 4. Fine. And P3, P3, at what time P3 got the first CPU? 3 milliseconds. 3 minus arrival time is 1, that is equals to 2. And P4, at what time first P4 got its? 11. 11 minus arrival time is 6, that is equals to 5. And finally P5, at what time P5 got its CPU in the sense? 17. 17 minus 8, which is equals to 9. This is how you will be going to find the response time of each and every process. Fine. These are the things in which you need to calculate. So arrival times, burst times, completion time, turnaround time, and the burst time. This problem is with the different arrival times. So this is how you will be going to have the round robin scheduling with the different arrival times and the same arrival times. So advantages of round robin scheduling is, in SJF we have faced the problem of starvation, but here there is no starvation. In FCFS we faced the problem of convoy effect, here there is no convoy effect. Like all jobs will get the equal priority of time, or equal priority will be going to given to each and every process. So in total number of process runs on the queue, then you can also assume the worst case also. This does not depend on the burst time. Here totally depends on the time slice, but not depend on the burst time. So if once a process is executed for a set of period, it has to be preempted and we have to give chance to the another process. So it allows the UOS to make a context switching in the sense saving the state of a process. It gives burst performance. So this is very advantage of round robin. And when it comes to the disadvantages, if the time slice what we are going to be is high, it will be not effective. So that is the drawback. This method spends more time on context switching. Why? Because if 5 process is there, we can switch easily. If 100 processes are there, switching between the 100 process, it is very much difficult. So that is the one of the drawback. Priorities, we can't give the priorities. Even though a process having the highest priority, we will have to wait till its turn comes and decrease the comprehension. So the headache between that time slicing is going to be decreased. So lower time quantum results in higher context switching. So this time slice is reduced, context switching is high. So if time slice is increased, context switching will be like it will be going to depend on the processes. So quantum is quite difficult task in this system. So we have to give a correct quantum time, which is very difficult. This is how the round robin scheduling algorithm is going to work. You just practice by taking 2 or 3 examples, so that you will be going to have a clear idea in order to solve the problem. Thank you all students. Have a great day.